The Tottenham Hotspur deal with SA-Tourism is not signed yet, says the tourism body, but they are in full support of the plan. The acting CEO saying today that tourism is a vital sector, and to attract international visitors to our shores, a high visibility campaign is the way to go. The board has given provisional approval for the plan, but the minister has yet to approve the deal. However, SA-Tourism is confident it will all go ahead. But there is a suggestion now that that deal will not meet the approval at the very highest level, the presidency. And I'm joined by our London correspondent, Olly Barratt. Good evening to you, Olly. Thank you very much for joining us. You have been in communication with the president's spokesperson, Vincent Magwenya. What has he said about the president's response to this deal?
Yeah, that's right, Sally. I was in contact with Vincent Magwenya partly because I had heard some whispers from a couple of quarters that the President himself was potentially supportive broadly of the proposal that was being suggested between SA-Tourism and Tottenham Hotspur. So I put that to Vincent Magwenya, and he said that was not true, categorically not true. He said the President would not support spending so much money in this manner, and he also said that the President has not been briefed about the sponsorship. So the spokesperson for the President pretty clear at that point that this was not something that President Ramaphosa had either been briefed about or was going to be getting on board with, and that is clearly therefore going to feed into SA-Tourism's attempts now to work through all of this with what they call their stakeholders to try and get all of this over the line. I've spoken to various people close to the deal again in the last few hours. There remains optimism from those who are close to the deal that it's going to get done, but there is also an acceptance that there is a process to go through now in South Africa to convince some of those sceptical minds among those stakeholders through which this process all has to be signed off. I have not had any word back at all from Tottenham Hotspur today. They continue just to say that they don't comment on commercial matters. The other thing we've seen this afternoon is the COO of SA-Tourism tweeting a picture that she says is, in her words, a proposal from Manchester United. Now again, I have been in touch with Manchester United, no response from them so far to verify whether that is indeed what has been sent or may not have been sent to SA-Tourism. But I think there is a picture here emerging of clearly officials at SA-Tourism would certainly like us to get the idea that this is an attractive proposition for not just Tottenham Hotspur but potentially other clubs as well. As I say, here at Tottenham Hotspur, just keeping very mum indeed about what was supposed to be, we know this to be true, launches this week that were going to take place, were planned to take place here at Tottenham Hotspur to announce an agreement.
I mean, this is the timeline that I just don't understand, Olly. Government business, particularly in South Africa, can take a very long time. If we've got a situation where Tottenham Hotspur were days away from holding a big press conference to announce this deal, and yet we hear from the SA-Tourism acting CEO that as of Monday, Tuesday, the tourism minister not only hadn't signed off on it but hadn't heard from it, how could Tottenham Hotspur be so confident as to start planning a massive press conference?
Well, I suspect that Tottenham Hotspur, and again I have to say they're not commenting at the moment, but I suspect that Tottenham Hotspur, and the way it's been explained to me by people close to the deal, were slightly surprised, as everyone was, about the way that this information arrived in the media in the first place. The plan was going to be that there would be, as I say, a launch event here at Tottenham Hotspur at which SA-Tourism and Tottenham Hotspur would announce together that a deal had been reached, an agreement had been found, and they would tell us how it was all going to work. They would be on the front foot. They would be the ones explaining the pros, the benefits as they saw them of such an arrangement. The fact that we saw this leak midweek of some of the details, reported details of the arrangement, I think just threw everything off course a little bit, and certainly has led to the situation that we've seen today, where the acting CEO of SA-Tourism has had to come out and say, look, we do need to have further conversations with stakeholders. I mean, my guidance is that there is still an expectation expectation among those close to the deal that it's going to get done, but the launch events here at Tottenham Hotspur are slightly drifting off into the future and certainly not taking place as planned tomorrow, for example, which was one of the potential dates that we were looking at, I think.
Olly, I wonder if you could give us some insight into how these campaigns typically work. We know that Rwanda had a similar deal. I think it was with Arsenal. And there are other countries that do these sorts of deals. Are they generally very expensive? Does it depend on the team? And is it simply about an armband, or is there often so much more to it? Because, frankly, we didn't get any information from SA Tourism today on the details of what bang they're getting for their buck.
Yeah, the shape of the deal does involve a shirt sleeve sponsorship, so the SA Tourism logo would be on the Spurs shirt in some form. The deal that we're looking at would be lasting around 3 seasons in total, but I'm also being guided that it would be much more than that. It would be about match day exposure, so you might see the name up on the hoardings around Tottenham Hotspur during Premier League matches. The idea of that, of course, is that it's seen by the television cameras and therefore by audiences around the world. We were also being told by sources about involvement from players in the first team, branding opportunities that would involve first team players, branding opportunities via Tottenham Hotspur's social media accounts as well. So those are all of the types of things that were and are still in the mix with this particular deal. But the question then becomes whether it's worth it. We are, as per my understanding, looking at a similar type of figures that were reported midweek. We are looking at around £40 million over the 3 years, not far off £1 billion, and the calculation therefore has to be, is it worth spending that money? Well, certainly from the acting CEO today of SA Tourism, all of those explanations were designed to tell us, without going into much detail, that SA Tourism believes it is worth it, that it would translate into tourist dollars, because it's not just about the British audience. That is supposed to be the whole point of this deal, that while, yes, the UK market is very important, that the Premier League is seen all over the world. It really is one of the most popular sporting events on earth, and that's the idea, to beam the SA logo into houses in China and India and the United States and further afield as well.
As you say, he didn't give a lot of details on the deal. He also didn't explain his working out, because for the nearly £1 billion spend, he said quite clearly, we expect 88 billion rand in return. Now, it's not clear how he's worked that out. And obviously, marketing spend is difficult to quantify, but there are ways of doing it. You know, are these things, you know, have previous countries that have got involved in deals like this seen great returns? Is it possible to quantify that easily?
It's really difficult to quantify, and one of the reasons for that is that, yes, we've seen shirt sleeve deals in the Premier League before. I mean, Spurs have one right now with a car company that would, the idea is that that would be replaced by SA Tourism at the end of their contract. Visit Rwanda is probably the most similar example that we can point to, but at the same time I'm being told by people working on this deal that actually we shouldn't be looking too closely at Visit Rwanda, because that's a much simpler deal. It is much more just about having the name on the shirt and not all of the other activities that would supposedly go with this particular deal. But that just takes us back to where we started, this idea that it is very, very hard indeed to quantify in advance how the South African rand that are being spent on this deal would translate into bums on seats on planes flying to South Africa in the years that followed. Clearly SA Tourism are very confident, but I think that's going to be one of the key areas that they are going to have to make their case in the coming days, if not weeks, to the stakeholders that we were hearing about earlier today, is exactly how these calculations have been arrived at. How can you show us that this is going to be value for money in the end?
Yeah, absolutely. After all, as he told us today, it is 1/3 of their budget, which is a sizable chunk indeed. Olly, thank you very much for that update, and also the news that Olly Barratt brought us, that he was in communication with Vincent Magwenya, the president's spokesperson. Vincent telling Olly that it's not true, speculation that the president's in favour of the deal. In fact, he's not at all keen on this amount being spent in this way. This is what Olly is hearing this evening.